My coworker, Vanessa Cole, saw me pull into the office parking lot in a luxury car and asked, her voice thick with envy, "Claire, did you buy that car yourself?" I remembered my father's advice about keeping a low profile. Never let people know exactly what you have. So I answered casually, without even looking at her twice, "It belongs to my husband." 3 months later, she showed up in court with a group of people and sued me. I was completely stunned. But she cried like she was the most wronged woman in the world. "It was Claire's husband," Vanessa said through tears. "I went to her house to drop off a file. She wasn't there. Her husband saw me, and he forced himself on me. I'm pregnant with his child." The entire courtroom turned to look at me. She placed a hand over her slightly rounded stomach. "I demand $5 million in compensation, and half of her marital assets. If they refuse, I'll sue both of them for marriage fraud. $5 million, half of my assets." A wave of judgment swept across the room, but I stayed calm. There was even a faint smile on my lips as I watched her performance. Vanessa had no idea I had been single for 5 years. Yes, I was married once, but my husband, Michael Turner, died 5 years ago. "You just said you're pregnant with my husband's child," I said evenly. "Are you sure about that?" The courtroom went silent. Vanessa lifted her chin. "Of course I'm sure, Claire. Out of respect for the time we worked together, I wanted to handle this privately, but you refused to admit it. I had no choice but to take legal action. Now that we're here, you'd better tell the truth." Her mother shot me a furious look. "You're Claire Bennett, right? That monster you call a husband ruined my daughter, and he doesn't even have the courage to show up in court. If he hadn't violated her, she'd still be innocent. How else would she be pregnant?" The two of them put on quite a show. Their voices were loud, accusing, emotional. I barely blinked. I slowly shook my head. "I think you have the wrong person," I said calmly. "Instead of wasting time blaming me, you should be looking for the real man responsible. My husband would never do something like that." My words were like a match dropped into gasoline. Her mother exploded. "How can you be so sure? My daughter is young and beautiful. Men can't take their eyes off her. I'm sure your husband isn't some saint. If she hadn't gone to your house to deliver that file, she wouldn't have been attacked." Vanessa began crying harder, holding her stomach. "Because of him, my life is ruined," she sobbed. "I can't get married, and now I'm pregnant. The doctor said if I get an abortion, I might never have children again." She looked at me with red, swollen eyes. "My demands aren't unreasonable. $5 million for emotional damage and a share of your assets. After all, I'm carrying your husband's child. Your family is wealthy. Can't you afford that?" A faint, mocking smile appeared on my lips. "There it is," I said quietly. "The real you." Her face stiffened. This was always about money, wasn't it? Her eyes flickered for just a second. "I'm the victim here. Do I not have the right to seek justice?" I leaned back in my chair. "Vanessa, you're more calculating than I thought." Her composure almost cracked, but I wasn't done. "You just said you're pregnant with my husband's child," I repeated calmly. "Say his name." She didn't hesitate. "Michael Turner." The name hung in the air. The room felt suddenly smaller. I folded my hands together and looked straight at her. "Michael Turner," I said slowly, "has been dead for 5 years." Silence fell like a heavy curtain, and for the first time since this circus began, Vanessa looked afraid. For a few seconds, no one moved. Vanessa's lips parted slightly, but no sound came out. Her mother was the first to react. "That's a lie," she snapped. "You're making that up to protect him." I didn't raise my voice. "I buried him," I said calmly. "There's a death certificate, a funeral, a grave." Murmurs spread across the courtroom. Vanessa's lawyer leaned toward her and whispered something urgently. I watched her swallow hard before straightening her back again. "You think this is funny?" She shot back. "I met him. I spoke to him. He told me his name was Michael Turner." I tilted my head slightly. "And you just believed that?" "He knew details about you," she insisted. "About your house, your habits. He answered a phone call from you while I was there. I heard your voice." That made my pulse shift slightly. I kept my face neutral. "You heard my voice?" "Yes," she said firmly. "He called you honey." A few people in the gallery exchanged looks. I let out a soft breath. "I haven't been called honey in 5 years." Her mother scoffed loudly. "You're twisting everything. My daughter is pregnant." The judge cleared his throat. "Ms. Bennett, are you officially stating that your husband is deceased?" "Yes, Your Honor." "And you can provide documentation?" "Of course." Vanessa's expression began to change. The confidence she walked in with was cracking around the edges, but she wasn't done yet. "You're lying. she said again, though her voice wasn't as steady. That man lives in apartment 302 at Brighton Heights. I saw him. I was there. Brighton Heights. I felt something shift inside me. Years ago, when the company asked for emergency contact information and addresses, I had listed that apartment. It was an old property I owned. I rarely went there. I never imagined anyone would connect it to me. I don't live there, I said simply. You're lying, she shouted. I didn't flinch. Then describe him. She hesitated just long enough for everyone to notice. He was tall, dark hair, gray eyes. My stomach tightened. Michael had gray eyes, but that didn't mean anything. Half the men in this city had gray eyes. What else? I pressed. She looked annoyed now. He had a scar near his jaw. Michael didn't have a scar, not there. I felt something cold settle into place in my chest. You're making this up as you go, I said quietly. Her face flushed red. I am not. He drove a black sedan. He told me you were out of town that night. I was out of town, I replied calmly. I was in Chicago for a charity event. There are photos. Hundreds of people saw me there. That created another wave of whispers. Vanessa's mother looked at her, confused for a second before recovering. You could have left early. I didn't. The judge raised his hand. Enough. He turned toward Vanessa. Ms. Cole, if the defendant's husband has indeed been deceased for 5 years, that is a serious matter. We will require immediate verification. Vanessa's lawyer stood up. Your Honor, even if that were true, someone presented himself as her husband. That does not invalidate my client's assault claim. There it was. A shift in direction. Now it wasn't about my husband specifically. It was about a man who claimed to be him. I folded my hands together. So now it's not about my husband? I asked softly. Vanessa glared at me. It was him. You're sure? Yes. You're willing to swear that under oath? Her throat moved as she swallowed. Yes. The judge nodded. We will schedule a DNA test regarding the pregnancy. If the alleged father is deceased, that will quickly become clear. At the word DNA, Vanessa visibly stiffened. Just for a second. I saw it. And so did the judge. Her lawyer leaned in again, whispering urgently. Vanessa's fingers tightened around the edge of the table. I decided to press further. If you're so certain, I said evenly, let's do the test. Her mother immediately jumped in. Of course we will. We have nothing to hide. But Vanessa didn't look at me anymore. She was staring at the floor. And that was when I knew. This wasn't just a lie. It was something more complicated. Something planned. The judge struck the gavel. This court will recess for 1 week. Both parties are ordered to provide documentation. A DNA test will be conducted. The room slowly began to empty. People avoided my eyes now. Confusion had replaced judgment. As I gathered my things, I felt someone watching me. I turned slightly. Vanessa was staring at me. Not crying, not dramatic, just staring. And for the first time, she didn't look like a victim. She looked scared. As I walked out of the courthouse, my phone vibrated in my hand. Unknown number. I hesitated before opening the message. Stop digging. You don't want to know the truth about Michael. My chest tightened. For 5 years, I believed my husband was dead. Now a pregnant coworker claimed he wasn't. And someone was warning me not to look deeper. I stared at the courthouse steps ahead of me. If Michael was truly dead, then who had Vanessa met? And why did someone want me to stop asking? I slipped my phone back into my bag. Whatever this was, it wasn't random. And I had the feeling that the pregnancy was just the beginning. I didn't go straight home after court. I sat in my car for almost 20 minutes, staring at the message on my phone. Stop digging. You don't want to know the truth about Michael. My hands were steady. That was the strange part. I wasn't shaking. I wasn't panicking. I was thinking. Michael died 5 years ago in a highway accident outside Denver. I identified his body myself. Closed casket, but still. There were reports, witnesses, insurance paperwork. You don't just come back from that. Unless something about it wasn't real. I drove to Brighton Heights that evening. Apartment 302, the address Vanessa mentioned. I rarely went there. It was an investment property, empty most of the year, sometimes used for storage. When I pulled into the underground garage, I noticed something immediately. There was a black sedan parked near the elevator. My stomach tightened. I parked slowly, sat there for a second, then stepped out. The building lobby was quiet. Too quiet. When I reached the 3rd floor, apartment 302 stood at the end of the hallway. The lights inside were on. I hadn't left them on. I never left anything on. I walked closer. The door wasn't fully closed, just slightly open. I pushed it gently. Hello? Silence. The apartment looked lived in. There was a jacket thrown over the couch, a coffee cup on the table, men's shoes near the door. My chest felt tight. Someone had been staying here, and they wanted me to find out. I stepped inside. The air smelled faintly of cologne. Not Michael's, but close enough to make my skin crawl. Then I heard a voice behind me. I was wondering when you'd show up. I froze. Slowly turned around. A man was standing near the kitchen island. Tall, dark hair, gray eyes. For a split second, my brain refused to process it. He looked like Michael. Not exactly, but enough to make my heart slam against my ribs. You took your time, he said calmly. I stared at him. You're not Michael. A small smile curved his lips. That depends who's asking. Rage replaced the shock. Who are you? He tilted his head slightly. I'm the man your coworker met. My pulse thundered in my ears. You told her you were my husband. She needed to believe something. She's pregnant. He shrugged. That's what she says. I stepped closer despite myself. Did you touch her? His eyes hardened slightly. She came here willingly. That wasn't my question. Silence stretched between us. Then he smiled again. You really don't remember, do you? A chill ran down my spine. Remember what? He moved slowly toward the living room, picking up the coffee cup like he owned the place. The night she says you were out of town. I was out of town. Are you sure? My stomach dropped. There are pictures, I snapped. Dozens of people saw me. Pictures can be scheduled. Appearances can be arranged. My head was spinning now. What are you implying? That maybe, he said softly, you don't know everything about your own life. Anger flared. Stop playing games. He looked at me carefully. You're being set up. I let out a short, humorless laugh. By who? You? Not me. Then why pretend to be my dead husband? He hesitated for the first time. Because someone wanted her to believe it. Who? He didn't answer. Instead, he walked past me toward the door. You shouldn't be here tonight, he said quietly. You shouldn't be anywhere near this. I grabbed his arm before he could leave. Did you threaten her? Did you make her say those things? He looked down at my hand gripping him, then back into my eyes. I didn't threaten her. Then why is she so confident in court? Because she thinks she's protected. By who? He gently removed my hand. You really don't see it yet. My heart was pounding. See what? You. The word landed strangely. Me? Yes. He stepped closer again, lowering his voice. This isn't about her. It's not even about me. Then what is it about? He studied my face like he was memorizing it. It's about what Michael left behind. My breath caught. What are you talking about? You should check your old house records, the ones from 5 years ago. I went through everything after he died. Not everything. Silence filled the room again. You're lying, I said finally. He didn't react. You're either working with her or you're insane. Neither. Then tell me the truth. He moved toward the door again. You don't want the truth. That's not your decision. He paused at the doorway, then looked back at me one last time. Ask yourself one question, Claire. What? If your husband really died in that accident, why was there no public obituary? My mind went blank. There had been a funeral, private, closed, family only, because that's what I requested. Or, that's what I was told happened. Before I could say another word, he stepped into the hallway. By the time I reached the door, he was gone. I stood there alone in apartment 302, in a place I barely used, in a space someone had clearly been living in. My phone vibrated again. Another unknown number. He told you too much. Stay out of it. I felt something shift inside me. This wasn't about Vanessa anymore. It wasn't about the pregnancy. It wasn't even about the fake husband. It was about Michael. And whatever happened 5 years ago, for the first time since he died, I wasn't sure of anything. And that scared me more than the lawsuit ever could. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my living room with every light on, staring at the folder I had kept locked away for 5 years. Michael's accident report, insurance papers, the funeral arrangements. Everything looked normal, too normal. The accident had happened on a stretch of highway outside Denver, late at night. Single vehicle, fire damage, closed casket recommended. I remembered being told it would be better that way. I remembered signing papers through tears, but now a single question kept repeating in my head. Why was there no public obituary? I opened my laptop and searched his name. Michael Turner. Dozens of results, but none about his death. No articles, no archived notices, nothing except old business mentions from years ago. My chest tightened. I picked up my phone and called the funeral home listed on the paperwork. It rang 4 times. Green Valley Memorial, a woman answered. My name is Claire Bennett, I said, keeping my voice steady. My husband, Michael Turner, was buried there 5 years ago. I need confirmation. There was a pause as she typed. I'm sorry, ma'am, she said carefully. We have no record of that name. My heart dropped. That's impossible. I have the receipt. I can double-check spelling. No, I whispered. That's fine. I hung up slowly. The room felt smaller, air thinner. If he wasn't buried there, then who did I bury? My phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't an unknown number. It was Vanessa. I hesitated before answering. What do you want? I asked. Her breathing sounded uneven. You went to the apartment, she said. My stomach clenched. How do you know that? I told you he lives there. He doesn't live there, I replied sharply. Who is he, Vanessa? Silence. Then, softer. I don't know. For the first time, she didn't sound dramatic. She sounded scared. You were very confident in court, I said. I thought I was protected. Protected by who? He told me not to worry, she whispered. He said if anything went wrong, it would be handled. Handled how? He didn't say. I closed my eyes for a second. Are you even pregnant? She inhaled sharply. Yes. You're sure? Yes. Is it his? I don't know anymore. That was the first honest thing she'd said. I leaned back in my chair. Vanessa, look at me in court next week and tell me the truth. I did tell the truth. No, I said quietly. You told a version of it. Her voice cracked. You think I wanted this? I thought he was your husband. He knew things about you. He had pictures of you. My eyes snapped open. What pictures? Of you at home, in your kitchen, in your garden. He showed them to me. Cold washed through my veins. How recent? A few months ago. Someone had been watching me. For how long did you see him? I asked. 3 months. The same 3 months between the car incident and the lawsuit. Did he ever tell you where he was before he met you? No. Did he ever talk about the accident? What accident? My pulse raced. You didn't know he supposedly died? No, she said slowly. He told me you were separated, that you were cold, that you only cared about money. A bitter laugh escaped me. That sounds convenient. I didn't plan this to destroy you, she said quietly. I thought if I pushed legally, he would step forward and acknowledge the baby. And instead, he disappeared. That lined up. The man at the apartment had vanished just as things escalated. Vanessa, I said slowly, if this is bigger than both of us, you need to stop acting like I'm your enemy. You're not? She asked. I don't think so. There was a long pause. Then she whispered something that made my blood run cold. He said if I ever doubted him, I'd end up like the last woman. My grip tightened on the phone. What last woman? He didn't explain. Vanessa, yes? Has anyone else contacted you? Another pause. Yes, my heart pounded harder. Who? An unknown number. They told me to stay quiet, that the DNA test would solve everything. And? They said if I kept pushing, people would start digging into my past. There it was. Pressure. Control. Vanessa, I said firmly, don't go anywhere alone. She let out a shaky breath. Why? Because if someone went through this much trouble to impersonate a dead man, they're not doing it for fun. You think I'm in danger? I think we both are. Silence filled the line again. Then she said something I wasn't expecting. I saw something in that apartment. What? A folder. What kind of folder? With your name on it. My body went rigid. What was inside? I didn't open it. Vanessa. I was scared. I believed her. For once, she added quietly, I think I might have been used. I stared at the dark window in front of me, my reflection staring back. Used. By who? And for what? Next week in court, I said slowly. Don't perform. I wasn't performing. Yes, you were. She didn't argue. If you know something, I continued, you say it. All of it. And if he shows up? My throat tightened. He won't. But I wasn't as sure as I sounded. After we hung up, I sat there in silence. No obituary, no burial record, a man wearing my husband's face, photos of me inside my own home, a folder with my name on it, and now, a pregnant coworker who might be more victim than liar. For 5 years, I mourned a man I thought was gone. Now I didn't know if he had ever truly left, and something inside me was beginning to crack, because if Michael wasn't dead, then he had chosen to disappear. And if he chose to disappear? The question wasn't who replaced him. The question was why. The next morning, I drove back to Brighton Heights, not to confront him, to search. Apartment 302 was empty again. No jacket, no coffee cup, no shoes. Like no one had ever been there. I stood in the middle of the living room trying to steady my breathing. Someone was cleaning up after him, or he was cleaning up after himself. Either way, this wasn't random. I walked toward the bedroom. The closet door was slightly open. Inside, nothing but dust, except a single receipt on the floor. I picked it up. Ultrasound clinic. Dated 6 weeks ago. Vanessa's name printed clearly at the top. My stomach twisted. So she really had gone to an appointment, which meant the pregnancy was real, or at least documented. I pulled out my phone and dialed her immediately. She answered on the second ring. "What now?" she asked, sounding exhausted. "You went to Northside Women's Clinic 6 weeks ago." Silence. "How do you know that?" "Because I'm holding the receipt." Another pause. "I told you I was pregnant." "I needed proof. You think I'd fake a medical visit?" "I think someone might have arranged one." Her voice rose. "You think I'm lying about everything? I think you're not asking the right questions." She inhaled sharply. "I saw the ultrasound. Did you see your name entered into the system?" "What?" "Did you watch them type your information? Or did you just show up and get guided through it?" She hesitated. I don't remember." That told me enough. "Vanessa," I said slowly, "did you ever choose the appointment time yourself?" "No, he scheduled it." "And you never thought that was strange?" "I thought he was being responsible." Responsible. The word almost made me laugh. "Where are you right now?" I asked. "At my mom's house." "Stay there." "Why?" "Because if he disappears when things escalate, he might try to disappear you too." She went quiet. "You really think he'd hurt me?" "I think whoever he works for might." "I didn't sign up for this," she whispered. "I know." There was a long pause before she spoke again. "I need to tell you something." My chest tightened. "What?" "The first time I went to the apartment, I didn't just run into him." "What do you mean?" "He was waiting." I closed my eyes. "Waiting for you?" "Yes. Like he knew you were coming." "Yes. How would he know that?" "I don't know, but I did. Someone in my office, someone who knew I had that apartment listed, someone who knew Vanessa would volunteer to drop off files." "Did you tell anyone you were going that night?" I asked. "No." "Did anyone see you leave?" She thought for a second. "Emily saw me grab the file." Emily, our department assistant, quiet, observant, always listening. "Did Emily ever ask you about me?" I pressed. "She asked if you and your husband were doing okay." My pulse slowed. That wasn't casual. That was fishing. "Vanessa," I said carefully, "has anyone from work contacted you since the court date?" "Yes." "Who?" "Emily." My stomach dropped. What did she say? "She told me to stay strong, that powerful people don't like being exposed." "Powerful people?" "That's what she said." I walked slowly toward the window, staring down at the empty parking lot below. Emily had worked with us for 4 years. Always polite, always invisible. "Did you ever see him talk to anyone else?" I asked. "The man?" "Yes. No, but once he got a call, and?" He stepped outside to answer it. "Did you hear anything?" "Just one name." "What name?" She hesitated. "Yours." Cold washed over me again. "What did he say?" "He said, she's almost ready." Almost ready. For what? I felt something shift inside me. This wasn't about destroying me. This was about pushing me, cornering me, forcing a reaction. "Vanessa," I said quietly. "What did he ever ask you about me?" She swallowed. "He asked if you still had access to everything." "Everything?" He didn't explain. My breathing slowed deliberately. 5 years ago, after Michael died, I inherited everything. Properties, accounts, private storage units, documents I never fully reviewed. Because I trusted that the worst was already over. Did he ever ask about my old storage unit? I asked suddenly. What storage unit? So she didn't know. Good. Vanessa, I continued, did he ever mention a key? Her silence was louder than any answer. Vanessa. Yes. He asked if I'd ever seen you wear a small silver key on a chain. My heart skipped. I used to wear that, years ago, before the accident. Why didn't you tell me that before? I demanded. Because I didn't think it mattered. It matters. Everything mattered now. The fake death, the impersonation, the pregnancy, the lawsuit, the pressure, the folder with my name, and now, the key. Vanessa, I said firmly, if anyone contacts you again, you tell me immediately. Claire. What's happening? I stared at my reflection in the window. I think someone needs something from me, and they're using me to get it. Yes, she was quiet for a long moment. I'm sorry. I didn't answer right away. I don't think you started this, I said finally, but you walked into it. So did you. She wasn't wrong. After we hung up, I stood alone in apartment 302 again. The air felt different now. Less haunted, more calculated. This wasn't a ghost story. It was a setup, and whoever was behind it had been patient. 5 years patient. My phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. This time there was no warning. Just one sentence. Bring the key to court next week, or she won't make it. My chest tightened instantly. They weren't hiding anymore. They were threatening, and they were serious. I looked down at my hands. The key had been locked in a safe at my house for years. I hadn't even thought about it. Now, it might be the only thing standing between Vanessa and something much worse. For the first time since this began, I wasn't thinking about clearing my name. I was thinking about survival. I drove straight home after that message. Bring the key to court next week, or she won't make it. They weren't bluffing anymore. They had moved from manipulation to threat. The house felt different when I walked in. Too quiet, too clean, like someone had been inside recently. I went straight to my study. Behind a painting near the bookshelf, there was a small safe embedded in the wall. I hadn't opened it in years. My hands hesitated over the keypad. Why had Michael insisted I keep it? Why had he told me, if anything ever happens, don't lose this? At the time, I thought it was sentimental. Now I knew it wasn't. The safe clicked open. Inside, wrapped in black velvet, was the small silver key. Simple, cold, ordinary looking, but clearly worth threatening someone over. I held it in my palm. What do you open? I whispered. My phone rang. Vanessa again. Her voice was shaking. He's outside. My heart slammed against my ribs. Who? The man from the apartment. He's parked across the street. Are you sure? Yes. He's just sitting there. Stay inside. Lock every door. He hasn't come out yet. He doesn't need to. Silence stretched on the line. Claire, she said softly, what if I was never supposed to sue you? What do you mean? What if that was just a way to get you to court? The realization hit me like a punch. Court, public place, security, metal detectors, cameras, and me. Carrying something valuable. They want the exchange there, I said quietly. Exchange? She repeated. They don't want to attack. They want me to hand it over. And if you don't, they'll make an example out of you. Her breathing grew uneven. I didn't know it was like this. I believe you. There was a pause. Then she whispered, He's getting out of the car. My pulse spiked. Go upstairs, now. I'm already upstairs. Do you see him? He's walking toward the house. Call the police. No, she said quickly. He told me if I involve anyone, it'll be worse. Vanessa, listen to me. Open a window in the back and leave if you have to. He's knocking. We both went silent. Through the phone, I could faintly hear it. 3 slow knocks. Don't answer, I said. He has a folder. My stomach dropped. A folder? Yes. Does it have my name on it? I can't see from here. Another knock, then his voice. Calm, controlled. Vanessa, we need to talk. Her breath hitched. He sounds normal, she whispered. That's how he sounded to me too. Should I answer? No. The doorknob rattled slightly. He has a key, she said. Cold spread through my body. How? I don't know. The line filled with the sound of a door opening downstairs. Footsteps. Slow. Measured. Vanessa, I said quietly. Put the phone in your pocket. Don't hang up. I grabbed my car keys. I'm coming. You're 30 minutes away. I'll drive faster. The footsteps grew louder through the phone, then his voice again. You shouldn't have called her. Vanessa's voice trembled. I didn't. You did. Silence. Then. She doesn't understand what this key opens, he continued. You don't either. My heart pounded. What does it open? Vanessa asked, her voice barely audible. It opens everything. I was already in my car, speeding down the highway. Through the phone, I heard a chair scrape. He's sitting down, Vanessa whispered. Vanessa, I said softly. Stall him. For how long? Until I get there. She took a shaky breath. What do you want from her? She asked him. What we were promised. And what was that? Access. To what? You ask too many questions. There was a pause. Then he said something that made my grip tighten on the steering wheel. She thinks her husband loved her enough to protect her. Vanessa swallowed. He did. A small chuckle came through the line. If he loved her, he wouldn't have left her holding the key. My heart pounded so loudly I could barely hear. Where is Michael? Vanessa suddenly asked him. Silence. Then, you're asking the wrong question. What's the right one? She pressed. Why was he afraid? I nearly missed a red light. Afraid. Michael wasn't the type to be afraid. Or maybe he was. And I just never saw it. Through the phone, I heard a sharp sound. Like something falling. Vanessa! I shouted. Silence. Vanessa! Then her voice strained. Claire, he's... The line cut. Dead. I slammed the steering wheel in frustration. No answer when I called back. No response to messages. I drove faster. By the time I reached her mother's house, 2 police cars were already there. My stomach dropped. I parked crookedly and ran toward the entrance. An officer stopped me. You can't go inside. I know her. Vanessa Cole. Is she okay? He studied me for a moment. She's shaken, but alive. Relief hit me so hard my knees almost gave out. What happened? I asked. A man entered the property. No sign of forced entry. He left before we arrived. Did she describe him? Yes. And? The officer looked at me carefully. She said he looks exactly like your deceased husband. My chest tightened. She also said, he continued, that he mentioned a key. I swallowed slowly. Did she say anything else? He hesitated. She said to tell you, not to bring it. My heart skipped. Not to bring what? The key. For a moment, everything felt suspended. Because if Vanessa was now warning me not to bring it, that meant she had learned something. Something that changed the game. And that meant the threat wasn't just about her anymore. It was about me walking into court. Exactly how they wanted. I looked down at my hand, still clutching my purse, with the silver key inside, and for the first time, I wasn't sure if bringing it would save her, or finish everything. I didn't go inside Vanessa's mother's house. I stayed outside under the dim porch light, trying to process what the officer had just told me. She said not to bring it. The key felt heavier now. Not just metal, responsibility, a setup, or maybe a trap I was about to walk into willingly. My phone vibrated. Unknown number. I answered immediately. You're persistent, the man's voice said calmly. Where is she? I demanded. Safe, for now. You broke into her house. No, I was invited. That's a lie. He didn't react. You're going to court, he continued. You're going to bring the key. Not anymore. A pause, then a soft laugh. You don't have a choice. I always have a choice. Do you? He asked quietly. You think the police will protect you? You think they'll understand what that key opens? My jaw tightened. Then explain it to me. Silence. You don't deserve that yet. Deserve? Yes. Michael didn't think you were ready. Anger flared inside me. Don't say his name. He built everything around you. Built what? You really never asked him what he was doing all those late nights? I didn't answer. Because I had asked, and he had smiled. And said it was just business. You trusted him, the man continued. That was your mistake. My mistake was ever letting someone like you near my life, a short breath on the other end. You think I'm the villain, aren't you? No, then who is? Another pause. You'll see in court. The line went dead. I stood there, staring at my phone. Court wasn't just about the lawsuit anymore. It was the stage, and I was expected to perform. But this time, I wasn't walking in blind. The next morning, I met Vanessa at a quiet cafe near her mother's neighborhood. She looked exhausted. No makeup, dark circles under her eyes. He wasn't there to hurt me, she said as soon as I sat down. Then why was he there? To warn me? About what? You. I stared at her. What does that mean? He said you don't understand what the key does. Neither do you. He said if you use it, everything collapses. Everything? Yes. She leaned forward slightly. He said Michael didn't fake his death to protect himself. Then why? To protect you. I laughed bitterly. From what? The truth? From being dragged into something bigger. Bigger than what? A fake assault? A staged pregnancy? She flinched at that. I never said it was staged. Is it? She hesitated. Then, no. Then whose is it? Silence. I don't know. The honesty in her voice felt real. I think he chose me because I was easy, she continued quietly. Easy to manipulate. Easy to use. And now? Now I think I'm disposable. That word lingered between us. Disposable. Like a pawn. Vanessa, I said carefully, what did he actually ask you to do in court? She swallowed. Push for the money. Make it public. Force you to respond. Respond how? He said once you felt cornered, you'd bring what he needed. The key. Yes. And then what? He didn't say. I leaned back slowly. So the lawsuit wasn't about money. It was about pressure. And pressure was about control. Did he ever mention anyone else? I asked. Once. Who? He said, she'll show herself when it matters. She? Yes. My mind raced. Did he ever mention someone at the office? She nodded slowly. He asked about Emily. There it was again. Emily. Quiet, observant, always around. What exactly did he ask? I pressed. He asked if Emily still handled internal access files. My pulse slowed. Internal access, employee data, addresses, schedules, apartment 302. She had access to everything. Vanessa, I said softly, what if this isn't about me at all? What do you mean? What if I'm just the bridge? To what? To something Michael left unfinished. She stared at me. You think your husband was involved in something illegal? I don't know what to think anymore. The cafe suddenly felt too small, too exposed. What are you going to do about the court? She asked. I reached into my purse, pulled out the silver key, placed it on the table between us. It looked harmless, simple. Vanessa stared at it like it might explode. That's it? She whispered. That's what they want, and you're bringing it? I shook my head slowly. No. Then what? I'm bringing something else. What? I looked her in the eyes. Questions. She didn't smile, but for the first time, she looked like she might actually be on my side. As I slipped the key back into my purse, I made a decision. If court was their stage, I was going to change the script, because I was done reacting, done being pushed. If they wanted a public confrontation, they were about to get one. And this time, I wasn't the one walking into a trap. The morning of the hearing, I woke up before the alarm. No fear, just clarity. They expected me to walk in nervous, defensive, cornered. Instead, I felt focused. Vanessa had agreed to come early. No dramatic entrance this time. No crying, no performance. If this was going to explode, it would explode clean. When I arrived at court, the hallway was already crowded. Whispers followed me again, but this time they sounded different, less certain, more curious. Vanessa stood near the entrance, arms crossed, looking pale. You didn't bring it, she said quietly as I approached. No. Are you sure that's smart? No. She let out a short breath. At least you're honest. Inside the courtroom, everything felt sharper, tenser. The judge entered. We stood. Vanessa's lawyer began immediately. Your Honor, my client maintains her claim. We are prepared to proceed. I didn't sit right away. Your Honor, I said calmly, before we continue, I'd like to clarify something. The judge looked at me. Go ahead. I would like Ms. Cole to state clearly, under oath, whether she personally verified the identity of the man she claims assaulted her. The room grew quiet. Vanessa glanced at me. Her lawyer stiffened. That's already been established. No, I interrupted evenly. It hasn't. The judge turned to Vanessa. Answer the question. She swallowed. No, she said quietly. I didn't verify his identity. A ripple went through the gallery. You assumed he was my husband because he said he was? I pressed. Yes. And because he knew personal details about me? Yes. Details that could have been accessed through our company records? Her lawyer stood abruptly. Objection. Overruled, the judge said sharply. Answer. Vanessa hesitated. Yes. I turned slowly toward the back of the room. Emily was sitting there, watching, always watching. Your Honor, I continued, I would like to request that the court subpoena internal access logs from our company. The room shifted. Vanessa's lawyer frowned. On what grounds? On the grounds that someone accessed my private address and personal data shortly before Ms. Cole visited apartment 302. Emily's expression changed. Just slightly, but I saw it. The judge leaned forward. Are you suggesting a third party orchestrated this? I'm suggesting that the man Ms. Cole met may have been given access to my personal information. Vanessa spoke up suddenly. He asked about Emily. The room froze. Her lawyer turned toward her sharply. What? He asked if Emily still handled employee access files. All eyes turned. Emily stood slowly. I don't know what you're implying, she said carefully. Her voice was calm. Too calm. I stepped forward. You processed my emergency contact updates 5 years ago, didn't you? Yes. You had access to my listed apartment address? Yes. And you knew Vanessa volunteered to drop off documents that night. That's speculation. Is it? Emily's jaw tightened. The judge intervened. Ms. Reed, are you accusing your colleague of involvement? I'm asking why the only 2 people who knew about that apartment were me and our HR department. Emily's composure cracked for the first time. I was just doing my job. Did your job include sharing my address with an outsider? Gasps filled the room. I would never, then explain how a stranger knew exactly where to wait. Silence. Vanessa spoke again, voice trembling. He told me he knew her schedule because someone inside helped him. Emily's eyes flicked toward Vanessa, and in that split second, fear. Real fear. The judge slammed the gavel. This is a serious allegation. Ms. Harper, you will remain in this courtroom. Emily sat back down slowly. I didn't do anything illegal, she muttered. I looked at her steadily. Then who did you give the files to? Her breathing changed. I didn't give them to anyone, but someone accessed them. She stayed silent. The judge turned to the court clerk. Pull the internal access records immediately. Emily's lawyer, who apparently she now had, stood up from the back row. This is outrageous. No, the judge replied sharply. What's outrageous is a potential identity fraud case tied to a false assault accusation. Vanessa's hand found mine under the table. Her grip was tight. Do you think she's behind all of it? She whispered. I think she's part of it, I murmured back. Emily suddenly stood up again. You don't understand, she said, her voice rising. Then help us understand, I replied. She looked around the courtroom, at the judge, at the lawyers, at the officers near the door, then at me. You were never the target, she said. My stomach dropped. What does that mean? She laughed softly. You still think this is about revenge or money? Then what is it about? She shook her head slowly. You really don't know what your husband was involved in. The room felt colder. Say it, I demanded. Emily's voice lowered. He didn't die in that accident. The words hit harder than I expected. Vanessa's grip tightened painfully around my fingers. Then where is he? I asked quietly. Emily's eyes met mine. And for the first time, she didn't look confident. She looked cornered. He ran, she said. And he left you with something he shouldn't have. My heart pounded. The key. She didn't answer, but she didn't deny it either. The courtroom erupted into whispers. The judge struck the gavel repeatedly. Order! I stepped closer to Emily. If Michael is alive, I said slowly, why go through all this? Her voice came out almost bitter. Because he won't come back for it. For what? For what only you can unlock. Silence swallowed the room. And for the first time, I realized something terrifying. This wasn't about forcing me to bring the key. It was about forcing me to use it. The courtroom felt like it was shrinking. He ran, Emily had said. Ran. Not died. Not disappeared. Ran. I stared at her, searching for hesitation in her face. There was a police report, I said slowly. There was a burned vehicle. There was a body. Emily shook her head. There was a fire. That's not the same thing. My pulse thudded in my ears. You're saying the body wasn't his? I'm saying you never saw it. The words landed hard. Closed casket. Recommended due to fire damage. Signed documents. Grief makes you compliant. Vanessa spoke up beside me. Then who was in the car? Emily's jaw tightened. I don't know. That's convenient, I snapped. You think I controlled all of it? She shot back. I was just a messenger. A messenger for who? Silence. The judge leaned forward. Ms. Harper, if you're implying a falsified death and identity fraud, you will provide names. Emily's breathing grew uneven. You don't understand how big this is. Try us, the judge replied sharply. Emily looked directly at me. Your husband wasn't just some businessman. My stomach dropped. He was building something. With who? I don't know everyone involved, but you knew enough to access my records. I was told to monitor them. Monitor me? I asked. Yes. For 5 years? Yes. The room erupted in murmurs again. The judge slammed the gavel. Order? I stepped closer. Why? Emily swallowed. Because you were the contingency. That doesn't mean anything. It means if he failed, you were the backup. Backup. For what? Vanessa looked between us. Failed at what? Emily hesitated, then said something that made the entire room go still. Control. The word echoed. Control of what? I demanded. Assets. Accounts. Access. The key, I whispered. She didn't answer, but she didn't need to. Vanessa turned to me slowly. You never told me what it opens. I don't know, I said honestly. Emily let out a bitter laugh. You really don't, do you? Then tell me. You think it's a safety deposit box? She said. Or some romantic keepsake. Enough games, I snapped. Emily's voice dropped. It's authorization. For what? For everything under his name. My chest tightened. Everything was transferred to me after he died. Not everything, she replied. Silence. The judge interjected again. Ms. Harper, are you claiming that Mr. Turner staged his death to avoid legal exposure? Emily shook her head. No. Then why? Because he knew they were coming. Who? She closed her eyes briefly. The people he promised something to. And what was that? I asked. You. The word hit harder than anything else. Vanessa's grip on my hand loosened slightly. What did he promise? I pressed. Emily looked at me with something close to pity. That you would finish it. Finish what? I felt like I was standing on unstable ground. Finish what? I repeated. She hesitated again. The transfer. My heart began to race. What transfer? The one that requires the key. And if I don't? Emily's eyes darkened. Then they lose everything. And if they lose everything, they don't forgive. The courtroom felt suffocating. Vanessa leaned toward me. Claire, what if this isn't about attacking you? It isn't, I said quietly. It's about forcing me to choose. The judge spoke firmly. This hearing is no longer limited to a civil claim. We are suspending proceedings pending investigation into possible fraud and identity falsification. He struck the gavel. But before anyone could move, the courtroom doors opened. A man stepped inside. Every sound in the room died instantly. Gray eyes, dark hair, same posture, same face. Michael. Or the man wearing his face. Vanessa's breath caught. Emily froze. My heart slammed violently in my chest. He walked forward slowly, calmly, not rushed, not panicked, like he had been waiting for this exact moment. You wanted answers, he said, his voice steady. The judge stood immediately. Identify yourself. He looked straight at me. Claire. My throat tightened. Is it really you? I asked. A faint smile touched his lips. That depends, he replied softly. Do you still trust me? The question felt cruel. Vanessa whispered, He's real. Emily looked terrified now. You weren't supposed to come here, she muttered under her breath. He ignored her. I didn't want you dragged into this, he said to me. You already dragged me, I snapped. He took another step forward. They were going to take everything, so you faked your death. Yes, gasps rippled through the courtroom. You let me grieve for 5 years, I said, my voice shaking for the first time. I thought it was safer. For who? Me? Or you? For both of us. Silence fell. The judge spoke sharply. Mr. Whoever you are admitting to falsifying your own death? He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked at me again. Did you bring it? The question sliced through the air. I held his gaze. No. For the first time, he looked worried. And that's when I understood something. He hadn't shown up to protect me. He had shown up Because he needed the key, and without it, he was exposed. Completely. The courtroom felt like it was about to explode, and I realized something terrifying. If he truly was Michael, then the biggest lie wasn't Vanessa's accusation. It wasn't Emily's manipulation. It was my marriage, and I was about to find out just how deep that lie went. The courtroom was frozen. No one moved. No one breathed. Michael, or the man who claimed to be Michael, stood in the center aisle like he belonged there. "You faked your death," the judge said sharply. "You understand that is a criminal offense." Michael didn't look at him. He was looking at me. I didn't have a choice. "There's always a choice," I replied coldly. His jaw tightened. "You don't know what they were planning. Then tell me," I shot back. "Because so far, all I know is that you let me bury an empty coffin." A murmur rippled through the courtroom. Vanessa stared at him like she was seeing a ghost. Emily looked like she wanted to disappear. Michael finally turned toward the judge. "Yes," he said. "I staged my death." Gasps. "And why?" the judge demanded. Michael hesitated, then said something that made my stomach twist. "Because if I hadn't, they would have come for her." "For me?" I asked. "Yes, for what?" "For what you control." "I control nothing," I snapped. "You control access." "The key?" Vanessa whispered. Michael nodded once. "It's not just a key." "Then what is it?" I demanded. "It's authorization to release assets tied to offshore accounts." The word hit the room hard. Offshore. The judge stiffened. "Are you admitting to financial misconduct?" Michael's eyes flicked briefly toward Emily. "I was holding money for people who don't like waiting." "For what purpose?" I asked. "To move it," he replied. "To hide it?" "To protect it. From who?" "From investigations that were coming." My heart pounded. "So you ran?" "Yes." "And left me with the trigger." His voice softened slightly. "I left you with leverage." "Leverage?" I almost laughed. "You left me with danger." Silence stretched between us. Vanessa spoke suddenly. "You told me she was cold," she said, her voice shaking, "that she only cared about money." Michael looked at her calmly. "I needed you to believe that. You used me." Yes, the honesty was brutal. Vanessa looked like she might cry again, but this time it wasn't theatrical. Emily suddenly stood up. "This isn't how this was supposed to happen," she muttered. Michael turned sharply toward her. "You weren't supposed to escalate it." "You disappeared," she shot back. "They wanted proof you were alive." "And you thought framing her was smart?" "I thought it would force her to open it." The courtroom exploded into whispers. The judge slammed the gavel repeatedly. "Order!" I felt something inside me crack. "You were all using me," I said quietly. Michael stepped closer. "I was protecting you." "No," I replied. "You were protecting yourself." His eyes darkened. "If I open that authorization," I continued, "what happens?" Michael didn't answer. Emily did. "Everything moves," she said. "Moves where?" I demanded. "Out of reach." "And if I don't?" Michael's voice was low. "They'll assume I betrayed them, and they won't stop." "From coming after who?" I asked. His silence was answer enough. Vanessa looked between us, horrified. "This was never about me," she whispered. "No," I said. "You were pressure." She flinched. The judge stood up. "This court is now involving federal authorities." Michael stiffened at that. "You don't want that," he said quickly. "Why?" I asked. "Because once they dig, they won't stop with me." "What does that mean?" He met my eyes directly. "It means your name is already attached." Cold flooded my body. "To what?" I whispered. "To the accounts. I never signed anything." "You didn't need to." My hands went numb. "You used my identity? I used your marital status." The betrayal felt physical, like something sharp lodged in my chest. "You made me legally tied to your crimes. I never intended for it to reach you, but it did." Silence fell again. The judge spoke to the officers near the door. "Detain him." 2 officers stepped forward. Michael didn't resist. But before they reached him, he looked at me one last time. "You still have the key." "Yes. If you open it, you control everything. And if I don't?" He held my gaze. "Then you control nothing." The officers placed handcuffs around his wrists. Vanessa stared at him. Emily sank into her seat, and I stood there, suddenly aware of something terrifying. The key wasn't just leverage. It wasn't just money. It was proof. Proof that my name had been used. Proof that I was connected to something I didn't understand. And now, everyone in that courtroom knew it. As they led Michael away, he said one final thing: "Don't let them take it from you." I didn't respond, because I didn't know who them was anymore. The authorities? His partners? Emily? Or the version of him I thought I married? The judge declared the hearing suspended indefinitely. Vanessa slowly released my hand. "I never meant for this," she whispered. "I know." "You're not angry?" I looked at her. I don't have time to be angry. Because now, this wasn't about reputation, or court, or even betrayal. It was about survival. And I was holding the one thing everyone wanted, the silver key. And for the first time, I understood something clearly. Michael didn't fake his death to protect me. He faked it because he knew if this ever surfaced, I'd have to decide whether to save him or expose everything. They took him away in handcuffs. And I didn't move. I just stood there, staring at the empty space where he had been. 5 years of grief. 5 years of thinking I had lost him, and now I didn't know what hurt more, that he was alive or that he had chosen to disappear. Vanessa touched my arm gently. "Claire, what happens now?" I exhaled slowly. "Now they start digging, and if they find those accounts, they'll assume I knew." She looked panicked, "But you didn't." "I know that. Proving it is something else." Across the room, Emily was being questioned by 2 officers. She looked smaller now, not confident, not in control, just scared. For the first time, I saw her not as a mastermind, but as someone who had gambled and lost. My phone vibrated in my purse. Unknown number? Again, I didn't hesitate this time. "What?" A different voice answered. Calm, female. "You shouldn't have let him get arrested." "Who is this?" "You just made things worse." "For who?" "For yourself." I felt Vanessa's eyes on me. "Who are you?" I repeated. "I'm someone who invested heavily in your husband's promise." "And what was that promise?" "That everything would transfer cleanly." My stomach tightened. "The key," I said flatly. "Yes." "I'm not opening anything." "You will." "No? You think the authorities won't pressure you? You think they won't freeze everything attached to your name?" My chest went tight. "You're threatening me." "No, I'm explaining consequences." Silence. "If you open it voluntarily," she continued, "you control how it happens. And if I don't? Then it happens without you." The line went dead. Vanessa looked at me anxiously. "Another one?" "Yes." "What did they say?" "They want control. And you?" I didn't answer immediately, because the truth was, I didn't know. The next day, federal investigators showed up at my house. 2 men, 1 woman, polite, direct. "We need to ask you about financial authorizations tied to your late husband." "Former husband," I corrected automatically. The woman looked at me carefully. "You were legally married at the time of his disappearance." "Yes." "Which makes you a co-signatory on several accounts." "I never signed anything." "You didn't need to," she replied. That phrase again. My stomach dropped. "Where is the authorization device?" she asked. "Device. Not key." I kept my face neutral. "I don't know what you're referring to." They watched me closely. "We know it exists," the man said. "Then you don't need me." Silence. The woman leaned forward slightly. "If you cooperate, this can go much smoother. And if I don't?" She didn't smile. "Then we treat you as complicit." Vanessa wasn't wrong. Everyone wanted something from me. Michael's partners, the authorities, even Emily in her own way. All roads led to the same thing. The key. After they left, I went back to the safe, opened it again, held the silver key in my palm. It looked so simple, so harmless. 5 years ago, Michael had kissed my forehead and said, "If anything happens, trust yourself." I thought he meant emotionally. He meant strategically. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was Vanessa. "They released him on temporary custody," she said quickly. My heart skipped. "What? Bail?" Of course. Money always moves fast. "He'll come for it now," she whispered. "No," I said slowly. "He won't." "How do you know?" "Because if he takes it by force, he loses leverage." She was silent for a moment. "So what do we do?" I stared at the key. At my reflection in the safe's metal interior. I end it. What does that mean? It means I decide. Decide what? Who wins? Silence. "You're scaring me," she admitted. I'm scaring myself, because the truth was, opening it would expose everyone, closing it would protect criminals, keeping it would keep me in danger. There was no clean option, only consequences. That night, Michael called me directly. No blocked number, just his name, I answered. You shouldn't have let them get involved, he said. You involved them when you ran. I was protecting you. You were protecting money. That money wasn't mine. I don't care whose it was. Silence. His voice softened. If you open it, they'll come after you. They already are. You don't understand how far they're willing to go. Then tell me. Another pause. They don't forgive betrayal. Are you talking about yourself? No. Then who? He exhaled slowly. You think I staged everything alone? Didn't you? No. Then why won't you say their names? Because once you know, you can't unknow it. I felt anger rise again. You made that choice for me 5 years ago. Silence. Claire, he said quietly, if you ever loved me, don't. I cut him off. Don't use that. Another long pause. If you open it, he continued, you destroy people who will destroy you back. And if I don't, you destroy me. There it was. The truth. This wasn't about protection. It was about survival. His or mine. I looked down at the key in my hand. I'm not doing this for you, I said finally. Then who? For myself. And what does that mean? It means I'm done being the contingency. Silence filled the line. Then, you're going to open it. Yes, another pause. Then quietly, I hope you're ready. He hung up. I stood there in my dark study, heart racing, mind clear. For 5 years, I had been the grieving widow, then the accused wife, then the manipulated pawn. Now, I was the one holding the decision. And tomorrow, everything changes. The next morning, I didn't call anyone. Not Vanessa, not a lawyer, not even the investigators. I drove alone. There was a private vault facility downtown, one of the properties Michael insisted we keep just in case. I never questioned it. I do now. The silver key sat in the cup holder beside me. It looked ordinary. But it had caused lawsuits, threats, manipulation, and a staged death. When I entered the facility, the receptionist recognized my name immediately. Mrs. Turner, she said politely. I didn't correct her this time. I need access to a private authorization box. She checked the system. There is a dual authentication requirement. I know. She looked at me carefully. Your husband hasn't accessed this account in 5 years. I'm aware. I signed the entry log. They led me to a private room. Metal door, plain walls, no windows. A small console waited at the center. Insert the key, the attendant instructed. I did. The panel lit up. Secondary authentication required. A fingerprint scanner. Of course. Michael always said I was too paranoid about security. Turns out, he was the paranoid one. I placed my finger on the scanner. A soft beep. Authorization confirmed. The box unlocked. Inside, not cash, not jewelry, not a passport, just a slim black drive and a folder of documents. My name was printed on the top page. Claire Bennett, Contingency Authority. My stomach twisted. I opened the folder. Pages of account structures, transfer pathways, legal shields. My name listed as final executor of multiple financial channels. If activated, everything would move into liquidation. Immediately. Publicly. Traceable. It wasn't about hiding money. It was about exposing it. My breath caught. Michael hadn't built a protection system. He had built a bomb, and I was the trigger. The drive required one final confirmation. Release all linked accounts. I stared at the screen. My phone vibrated. Michael, I answered. You're there, he said quietly. Yes. Don't do it. Why? Because once you press that, there's no undoing it. You said it was leverage. It is. For who? For you. No, I said slowly. It's leverage against you. Silence. They trusted me, he finally admitted. For what? To keep everything stable. And instead? I built an exit. For yourself. For you, he corrected. You don't get to say that. His voice cracked for the first time. I loved you. You lied to me. I was protecting you. You were deciding for me. Silence again. Claire, he said softly. If you press that button, I go down. Yes. And a lot of other people go down with me. Yes. And you think they'll just accept that? I looked at the screen. Confirm release? They're already threatening me, I replied. They won't stop. They won't stop either way. The truth settled between us. I didn't fake my death to hurt you, he said, but you did. Another long pause. If you do this, he whispered, you burn everything. I thought about the 5 years, the grief, the manipulation, Vanessa being used, Emily gambling with people's lives, the threats, the surveillance. I'm done being your contingency, I said calmly, and I pressed, confirm. The screen flashed. Release initiated. Michael's breathing changed on the other end of the line. You just ended us, he said quietly. No, I replied. You did that 5 years ago. The line went dead. I stood there in the silent room, no explosion, no dramatic alarms, just quiet. But somewhere, accounts were freezing, transfers were surfacing, names were appearing, the bomb had gone off, and it was clean. When I stepped outside, my phone was flooding with notifications, financial investigations launched, multiple arrests pending, asset seizures initiated. Michael's name was already trending online. So was mine. Vanessa called. Did you do it? Yes. A long silence. What happens now? Now the truth runs. And you? I looked up at the sky. For the first time in weeks, I could breathe. I live with it. A few hours later, Michael was taken back into custody. No bail this time. Emily was officially charged with data manipulation. Vanessa's case was dismissed. The pregnancy? Real, but not his. DNA confirmed it. She cried when she told me. Not from shame, from relief. Weeks passed. Investigations expanded. People I had never heard of were suddenly on the news. The accident 5 years ago? Now under review. And me? I was cleared. After forensic accounting, they confirmed I had never personally accessed or benefited from any of it. I wasn't complicit. I was used. One evening, I visited Michael. Through glass. He looked older, smaller. You chose yourself, he said quietly. Yes. Do you regret it? I thought about it. No. He nodded once. I always knew you'd be stronger than me. I didn't respond, because strength wasn't what this was. It was survival. When I walked out of that facility, I didn't look back. 5 years ago, I buried a husband. This time, I buried the illusion. And for the first time since this nightmare began, I wasn't someone's leverage. I wasn't someone's backup plan. I wasn't someone's weakness. I was just Claire. And that was enough. Life didn't go back to normal. It shifted. The headlines faded after a few weeks, but the consequences didn't. Michael's trial moved fast once the financial trail became public. More names surfaced. More people tried to distance themselves. Some of them failed. Vanessa stopped coming to court once her case was officially dismissed. She sent me a message instead. I never wanted to be part of something like that. I just wanted someone to choose me. I stared at that sentence for a long time before replying. He never chose anyone. He chose control. She didn't answer after that. Months passed. The investigators cleared my name publicly. It helped, but it didn't erase the whispers entirely. Some people still looked at me like I had known, like no one could possibly be that blind. But I had loved him. And love makes you overlook the quiet red flags. One afternoon, I went back to Brighton Heights, apartment 302, the place where all of this started. It was empty again, this time for real. I walked through the living room slowly. No jacket, no coffee cup, no ghost wearing my husband's face, just silence. I sat on the couch and let myself feel something I had been avoiding, grief. Not for the man who betrayed me, but for the version of my life I thought I had. 5 years ago, I thought I lost him to an accident. Now I understood. I lost him to choices. Later that week, I visited Vanessa. She was showing already. The pregnancy had been real, just not his. The father? I asked gently. She gave a small shrug. A mistake, she said. A real one. Are you okay? She hesitated. I will be. For the first time, there was no jealousy in her eyes. No performance, just exhaustion. I'm sorry, she said quietly. For what? For believing him. I nodded slowly. So did I. That was the truth neither of us wanted to admit. We were both manipulated, just in different ways. As for Emily, she cooperated with investigators, reduced sentence, public disgrace. She sent me one letter from custody. I never meant for it to spiral like that. I didn't respond, because whether she meant it or not, it had. One evening, months later, I received a final request. Michael wanted to see me again. I almost refused, but I went. The visiting room was quiet. He looked different. Not dramatic, just smaller. Everything collapsed, he said when I sat down. I know. You could have kept it, he added. Kept what? The leverage. I didn't want leverage. You could have controlled it. I didn't want to control anything. Silence. I thought I was building something untouchable, he admitted. You were building something unstable. He nodded slightly. I never thought you'd press it. That was your mistake. He looked at me for a long time. Did you ever love me? He asked. The question surprised me. Yes, I said honestly. And now? I took a slow breath. I don't hate you. He looked relieved at that, but I don't recognize you either. That hurt him more than anger would have. When I stood to leave, he said one last thing. You were always stronger than I gave you credit for. I didn't turn around. I was always stronger than you needed me to be, and I walked out. For good. 6 months later, the investigations were mostly done, assets redistributed, sentences handed down. The scandal faded into another headline buried by newer ones. I moved out of the villa, sold Brighton Heights, closed the last accounts attached to his name. I kept one thing, the silver key, not because it still opened anything. It didn't, but because it reminded me of something important. I had a choice. I wasn't a victim. I wasn't someone's pawn. I wasn't someone's backup plan. When I look back at that day in the parking lot, Vanessa asking if I bought the car myself, I almost laugh. That car wasn't the beginning. It was just the first crack. The real beginning was the moment I decided not to stay quiet, not to protect someone who never protected me, not to carry a lie just because it was comfortable. Michael thought I would always be his safety net, his contingency, his final move. He was wrong. I chose truth, even when it cost me my marriage, even when it exposed everything. And in the end, that was the only thing that set me free.